I want you to do something for me right now. If you are in a place where you can safely do it, meaning, you aren't driving or operating heavy machinery, just close your eyes for a brief moment.
Just for a second.
Right. I want you to visualize the last 10 years of your life. Not the next 10 years, but the absolute final decade of your time here on Earth. What does that actually look like to you?
It's a heavy question.
It is. What kind of picture just flashed into your mind? Because for a lot of us, if we are being completely honest with ourselves, that image is shadowed by a pretty heavy dose of anxiety.
Oh, absolutely.
We picture this slow, inevitable decline. We picture endless doctor visits.
The pill organizers.
Yes. Those pill organizers the size of tackle boxes sitting on the kitchen counter.
Yeah, Sunday through Saturday morning and night.
Exactly. And a rapidly shrinking world where just getting out of a chair becomes a monumental task. But what if I told you that the vision of aging we have all just culturally accepted as normal?
Basically a given.
Right, as a given. What if I told you it's completely optional? Welcome to this deep dive. Today, we are exploring a stack of research and clinical notes that basically serves as a masterclass in completely rewriting our biological timeline.
It really is a masterclass.
The material we are looking at outlines a highly specific, biologically grounded strategy to maintain the vitality, the energy, and the physical resilience of a 30-year-old until the very end of your life.
Which sounds like science fiction, but it's not.
Not at all. We are talking about drastically compressing the time you spend battling illness from a decade or more down to an incredibly brief window. Okay, let's unpack this. The mission of our deep dive today is to explore a massive internal shift. We are going to figure out how you can switch your body from a default glucose engine,
The sugar burner?
right, over to a fat engine, utilizing a concept known as metabolic flexibility. And ultimately, we're going to look at how this one internal mechanical shift can absolutely maximize the happiness area of your life.
And defining that target audience right up front is so critical. Because this material is speaking directly to anyone who feels a very real, visceral fear when they think about the medical bills, the loss of autonomy, and the chronic diseases that seem to inevitably accompany old age in modern society.
It's terrifying.
It is. But it is also targeted at you if you are currently trapped in an endless, exhausting cycle of yo-yo dieting.
Oh, the yo-yo trap.
Right, where you lose 10 pounds only to gain back 15, or if you are battling chronic fatigue that just will not lift, no matter how many hours you sleep or how much coffee you drink.
Yeah, that 3 p.m. slump that lasts until bedtime.
Exactly. This is for anyone seeking a true extension of their health span.
And we should probably clarify that term.
We really need to differentiate that from simply lifespan. Lifespan is just the total number of years your heart is beating and your lungs are moving air.
The calendar years.
Right. Health span is the period of life you actually spend in robust, good health, free from chronic, debilitating disease.
Which is what we actually want.
What makes this particular set of notes and clinical observations so compelling is its absolute refusal to get bogged down in mere nutritional theory or, epidemiological guesswork.
It doesn't care about what should work on paper.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It prioritizes actual clinical results, the undeniable physical proof provided by the human body when these metabolic changes are implemented.
The data you can measure.
Right. If a theory sounds great on paper but fails in the real world of human endocrinology, this material dismisses it. We're focusing purely on what biologically works, down at the cellular level.
I'm glad you brought up the difference between health span and lifespan, because the source material uses a really powerful visual to get this exact point across. And it relies on comparing two very different life graphs.
These graphs are eye-opening.
They really are. I want you to picture the first graph in your mind right now. This is the tragic, average, modern trajectory. It is the grim reality for the vast majority of people living in industrialized nations today.
The standard path.
Right. So imagine a line charting your overall health and vitality over time. On the y-axis is your health, the x-axis is your age. In your 20s and 30s, the line is high up on the y-axis. You have energy, your joints don't ache, your mind is relatively sharp.
You're at the peak.
But then, as you hit your late 50s and 60s, that line begins to dip. And it's not a sudden drop off a cliff.
No, it's much worse than that.
It's a slow, agonizingly gradual decline. That line keeps drifting downward, leading to a prolonged 10 to 20-year plateau at the absolute bottom of the chart before the eventual end of life.
And the details of what that bottom plateau actually looks like in reality are stark. We are not just talking about a mild loss of energy or needing reading glasses.
Right, it's not just feeling a little stiff in the morning.
No, That long, low line, what we might call the six-pan, represents a life that is potentially confined to a nursing home bed or a motorized scooter.
Yeah.
It represents decades spent actively battling severe, life-altering chronic conditions. We're talking about type 2 diabetes, rampant cardiovascular disease,
High blood pressure.
osteoarthritis, and increasingly neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and dementia.
It's brutal.
It is. Modern medicine, for all its miraculous advancements, has essentially become incredibly proficient at managing symptoms and keeping us alive longer.
We are definitely living longer on average.
Our lifespan has extended historically.
Yep.
We have pharmaceuticals that can artificially lower blood pressure, statins that tweak lipid profiles, and surgeries to bypass clogged arteries.
Stents, pacemakers, all of it.
But because of that slow decline in underlying biological function, the period of actual vibrant happiness, the time when you can actually use your physical body to engage with and enjoy the world, is absurdly short relative to how long you are kept biologically alive.
You are surviving, but not thriving.
You are existing, but you are not experiencing what human health is supposed to be.
Right. The medical system is dragging that bottom line out as far as it can stretch. Which brings us to the second graph.
The one we actually want.
The golden graph. This is the trajectory we should all be aiming for, and more importantly, that our biology is fundamentally designed to achieve.
That's the key part right there.
Exactly. Picture the second line. It does not start dipping in your 50s or 60s. It stands tall and straight, maintaining those high health and energy markers of a 30-year-old well into your 80s, your 90s, into the hundreds.
Or even up to the theoretical human maximum of around 120 years of age.
Right. The line stays elevated for decades longer, and then, and this is the crucial part, it only features a sharp, incredibly brief drop at the absolute end of life.
A very sudden drop.
Meaning the individual passes peacefully after a tiny microscopic period of illness. The focus here is entirely on what is referred to as the happiness area.
I love that term.
It's great. If you look at the vast, bright golden space under this second elevated graph, that area represents the time spent walking on your own 2 feet without a walker. It is the time spent traveling the world, actively achieving your lifelong goals, and having the cognitive and physical energy to actually play on the floor with your grandchildren.
Instead of being a frail patient, they have to carefully visit in a facility.
Exactly. You're out in the yard with them, not sitting in a recliner watching them.
What's fascinating here is that the functional medicine and gerontology worlds have a very specific scientific term for this exact phenomenon.
Oh, right. What was it again?
The compression of morbidity.
Compression of morbidity.
Morbidity in this clinical context refers to the state of being diseased, disabled, or generally unhealthy.
Okay.
The goal of this entire protocol is not necessarily to chase immortality or cheat death forever.
We aren't trying to live to 500.
No. The goal is to literally compress the period of disease, the morbidity, into the absolute smallest possible window of time at the very end of your lifespan.
Yeah.
It's about squaring the curve.
Squaring the curve.
Yeah.
Making it a cliff instead of a ramp.
Exactly. And what the clinical data strongly emphasizes is that achieving this compression of morbidity is not about relying on wildly expensive experimental longevity supplements.
No magic pills.
And it's not about subjecting yourself to grueling, joint-destroying, elite athlete levels of exercise.
You don't have to run ultra marathons.
It is fundamentally down to the mitochondrial level about how you fuel the machinery of your body.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because to explain how we change that fuel, the material compares the human body to a state-of-the-art hybrid car.
It's a perfect analogy.
Now think about how a hybrid car operates on the highway. It is designed for maximum efficiency, range, and adaptability. When you are driving at low speeds or idling, it smoothly and quietly uses electricity from its battery.
Right, the electric motor.
But the moment that battery is depleted or you suddenly need to accelerate hard onto a freeway, the car's internal computer seamlessly switches the engine over to burning liquid gas.
You hear the combustion engine kick in.
Exactly. But as the driver, you don't have to pull over, flip a bunch of switches, and reboot the system.
You don't even feel it happen.
You just press the pedal. The engine adapts perfectly to the environment to ensure the car keeps moving forward without a single hitch.
And that is precisely how human bodies were originally designed to function.
We are hybrids.
Our ancestral biology is a perfect, highly evolved hybrid system. From an evolutionary standpoint, we were engineered over millions of years to burn two distinct types of fuel. and to switch between them effortlessly.
Like the gas and electricity.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Right after a successful hunt or a forage, when food was plentiful, our bodies would efficiently burn glucose.
Which is what?
That's the simple sugar that comes from breaking down carbohydrates for immediate energy. The liver stores some of this as glycogen for quick access.
Okay, so that's like the battery being full.
Right. But food wasn't always available to our ancestors. Winter came, hunts failed, droughts occurred.
They didn't have 24-hour drive-thrus.
They certainly did not. When food was scarce, the human body wouldn't just shut down and die. It would seamlessly flip a metabolic switch.
The hybrid engine kicks in?
Exactly. As glucose and liver glycogen levels dropped, the endocrine system would transition to burning stored body fat to keep the engine running, the brain functioning, and the muscles moving so we could go find more food.
That makes total sense. We carry the fuel with us.
This dual fuel capacity, this metabolic flexibility, isn't some biohacking trick. It is the biological baseline of a healthy human being.
But the reality is that modern life has essentially taken a sledgehammer to this beautiful, perfect hybrid system.
Completely smashed it.
We have completely destroyed our metabolic flexibility. And the culprit isn't a lack of exercise. It is our relentless, socially accepted daily menu.
The standard diet.
If you look at what a standard day of eating looks like for so many people in the Western world, it's a nonstop carbohydrate 5V drip.
That's a great way to phrase it. An IV drip of sugar.
Think about it. You wake up and have a bagel, cereal, or toast for breakfast.
Carbs.
You go to work and have noodles, a sandwich, or a wrap for lunch.
More carbs.
You come home and have a big bowl of pasta, rice, or potatoes for dinner.
Carbs again.
And in between all those meals, you are drinking sweetened coffees, sports drinks, or snacking on granola bars and baked goods.
It never stops.
Because we are constantly, without fail, flooding our bodies with carbohydrates from the moment we wake up to the moment we go to sleep. We have devolved.
We really have.
We have gone from being this sleek, adaptable hybrid vehicle to a broken, half-functioning, glucose-only engine. We have literally forgotten how to use our secondary, much larger fuel source.
The source uses that hybrid car analogy, but if we drop down to the cellular level to see what's physically happening, we're actually looking at a state of severe mitochondrial inflexibility.
Mitochondrial inflexibility.
Right. The text uses the metaphor of a rusted valve.
Okay, paint that picture for me.
Imagine a literal mechanical valve inside your body that controls the access to your stored body fat, because you are constantly providing external glucose every 2 to 3 hours.
The IV drip.
Your body constantly secretes insulin to manage that blood sugar. Insulin is fundamentally a storage hormone.
It tacks energy away.
When insulin is elevated in the bloodstream, it actively blocks the biological pathway that allows fat to be burned.
It locks the door.
Specifically, it downregulates an enzyme complex called the carnitine shuttle.
Carnitine shuttle.
Yes. That shuttle is responsible for pulling fatty acids into your cell's mitochondria to be oxidized for energy.
So it's the gateway to burning fat.
Exactly. So because insulin is always high from the constant carb intake, that carnitine shuttle shuts down. That's the rusted valve.
Wow.
Over years and decades of never being used, the metabolic machinery required to burn fat effectively atrophies. Therefore, because your body now relies 100% on external glucose, the moment your blood sugar drops even slightly,
Like mid-afternoon.
right, say 3 or 4 hours after that noodle lunch, the brain panics.
Wait, let me make sure I'm getting this. So even if I'm carrying around extra body fat, if I'm eating mostly carbs, that valve stays shut.
Completely shut.
The body literally can't access its own pantry.
Exactly. You are biochemically locked out of your own energy stores.
That is wild.
When that post-lunch blood sugar dips, your brain perceives this minor drop not as a normal fluctuation, but as an existential threat.
Because it thinks there's no backup fuel.
Right. The brain requires a massive amount of energy. And if it only knows how to use glucose, and the glucose is running out, and the fat valve is rusted shut, it rings a massive internal emergency alarm.
Sirens going off.
It triggers the release of stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, basically screaming at your conscious mind, put sugar in the system right now, or we are going to power down.
And we all know exactly what that panic feels like. That is the direct clinical result of this internal alarm bell.
Everyone has felt it.
It's basically a checklist of the modern human condition. Your hands start trembling. You experience extreme, sudden fatigue where you can barely keep your eyes open at your desk.
The brain fog.
Yes. You get incredibly irritable, that classic hangry feeling where you are snapping at your coworkers or your kids.
You're just reacting to biology at that point.
It is the undeniable physiological sugar crash. Or, Clinically speaking, reactive hypoglycemia.
That's the medical term for it.
But the incredible irony here is that you are experiencing this desperate, starving crash despite having mountains of perfectly good, highly efficient energy stored as fat right there in your belly, your thighs, your hips.
It's tragic, really.
You are essentially a tanker truck full of fuel that is completely stalled on the side of the highway because the engine itself ran out of a tiny cup of gas.
That is the perfect way to visualize it.
You are carrying around a massive battery pack of energy, but because the biological wire is cut by high insulin, your brain thinks you are starving to death.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the clinical implications of this broken metabolism go far beyond just feeling cranky in the afternoon.
It's not just about snapping at your spouse.
No. When the body is trapped in this glucose-only cycle for decades, it leads directly to the severe outcomes we discussed in that tragic first life graph.
The long sick span.
Yes. The constant spikes and crashes of blood sugar and the resulting chronic elevation of insulin lead directly to systemic chronic inflammation.
Which is the root of almost everything.
It drives insulin resistance, where your cells become so battered by the constant flood of insulin that they start ignoring the signal.
They just stop listening.
Right. Forcing the pancreas to pump out even more just to keep blood sugar stable. And of course, it leads to massive obesity.
Because the valve is shut.
Because if you can't open the rusted valve to burn your stored fat, the body's only option is to keep storing more and more of it every time you eat excess carbohydrates. You are locked on a one-way street of fat accumulation.
Okay, so let's look at how people typically try to solve this. Because when people recognize this weight and health disaster happening to their bodies, they usually try to fix it using the most common, socially prescribed method available.
The mainstream advice.
We're talking about the traditional calories in, calories out model.
Oh, boy.
And this brings us to the sad, painfully familiar image of the modern dieter. You know this person, or, let's be real, you have likely been this person at some point.
I think we all have.
It's the tragedy of someone meticulously writing down every single calorie they eat in an app on their phone.
Scanning every barcode.
Yes. They're weighing their food on a little digital scale, eating portions that wouldn't satisfy a bird.
A tablespoon of this, a gram of that.
Their diet consists entirely of dry, spinless chicken breasts, steamed broccoli, and maybe a plain baked sweet potato if they are treating themselves.
And absolutely zero flavor.
They are cutting all the fat, cutting the calories, and relying purely on white-knuckled willpower and deprivation.
And clinically speaking, the breakdown of why this approach is so fundamentally doomed to fail is one of the most important insights in this material.
Why doesn't it work? It seems like it should.
It all comes back to that rusted valve, the insulin resistance, and the lack of metabolic flexibility. The traditional dieting model treats the human body like a simple bomb calorimeter,
Like a machine.
a basic math equation of thermodynamics. It assumes that if you just eat 500 fewer calories than you burn, your body will neatly and happily extract 500 calories of energy from your fat stores to make up the difference.
Which sounds completely logical.
On paper it is, but human endocrinology is not a simple math equation.
Right.
It is a complex, adaptive survival system. If you lack metabolic flexibility, meaning your carnitine shuttle is downregulated and you cannot easily switch over to burning your own fat, and you suddenly restrict your calories while still eating a predominantly carbohydrate-based diet,
Oh, I see where this is going.
your body does not look at your belly fat and say, oh, excellent, we could just use this.
Because the valve is still rusted shut.
Exactly. Because the fat valve is still biochemically closed by the insulin response to those carbs, your body assumes it is entering an environment of extreme, life-threatening starvation. It thinks a famine has hit.
Wait, isn't it just physics, though? Thermodynamics. If I'm eating less energy than I use, I have to lose weight, right?
You will lose weight initially, yes. But you won't just lose fat. You'll lose lean muscle mass. And more importantly, your body will alter its energy expenditure.
What do you mean by alter?
Thermodynamics dictates that energy cannot be created or destroyed, but it doesn't dictate how the body spends its energy. When the brain senses a severe calorie deficit but can't access stored fat, it initiates a physiological panic response to save your life.
It fights back.
It aggressively downregulates your basal metabolic rate, or BMR. It essentially dims the lights and turns down the thermostat in the house.
And the body's rebellion against this perceived famine is incredibly harsh. The physiological reactions that occur when you try to starve a glucose-only engine are brutal.
They are miserable.
First, as you said, your metabolism just plummets, your thyroid hormone production alters, and your body decides to conserve energy at all costs, so you stop burning calories efficiently.
The baseline drops.
Your body stops expending energy on heat generation, which is why people on extreme low-calorie diets constantly feel freezing cold, even in the summer.
Always wearing a sweater indoors.
Your hair might even start to thin or fall out because the body deems hair growth as biologically non-essential during a famine.
It's diverting all resources to keeping your organs functioning.
Your non-exercise activity, thermogenesis, or NEAT plummets,
That's a huge one.
meaning you stop fidgeting, you sit heavier, you subconsciously move less throughout the day.
You're just lethargic.
And ultimately, your willpower snaps. It has to. The primal drive for survival takes over, and you succumb to late-night binge eating.
It's inevitable.
It's the highly relatable scenario of waking up at 11 p.m. and tearing through the pantry for a bag of chips, or ordering a massive bowl of ramen.
Your brain takes the wheel.
Your brain literally overrides your conscious intentions and forces you to seek out the most calorie-dense, carbohydrate-heavy food possible to quickly save you from what it perceives as starvation.
This underscores a core unbending philosophy that we have to internalize. No matter how mathematically plausible a health theory sounds on paper, if that theory is physically and psychologically unsustainable in reality, it's completely useless.
You can't fight biology.
You cannot out-willpower millions of years of evolutionary survival programming with a smartphone app and a dry chicken breast.
It's an unfair fight.
The hunger hormones, specifically ghrelin, will eventually rise to levels that are impossible to ignore. The only true metric of success is the actual clinical outcome.
And the outcome here is grim.
The clinical outcome of severe calorie restriction without first establishing metabolic flexibility is almost always temporary weight loss, followed by a severe metabolic slowdown, physiological misery, and eventual weight regain,
The yo-yo.
often leaving the person with more body fat and less muscle mass than when they started. It's a devastating cycle.
Okay, I hear what the science is saying about the failure of the calorie counting trap,
Yeah.
but we have to acknowledge the elephant in the room.
Let's do it.
If our fat valve is rusted shut by a lifetime of eating bread and rice, how on earth do we break the cycle?
Good question.
How do we get the rust off that valve and turn the fat engine back on without triggering that starvation panic?
Well, the material provides a very clear mandate.
And it makes it known that this isn't going to happen by accident. You aren't going to suddenly become a fat burner by taking a brisk walk once a week.
No, it requires a very active, highly intentional effort, especially in the first few weeks of adaptation. You have to aggressively force the body to remember how to do this.
The exact prescription outlined here represents a complete paradigm shift for most people.
A total of 180.
And it directly challenges the nutritional dogma we've been fed for the last half-century.
It does. The mandate is to radically reduce the proportion of carbohydrates in your diet.
So the rice, the bread, the noodles, the refined sugars.
Yes, you have to drop them low enough that your body stops constantly producing high levels of insulin.
You have to stop the IV drip.
Exactly. But, and this is the critical part where most diets fail, you don't just leave that caloric space empty. Empty space triggers the starvation panic.
Right, because then you're just back to starving a sugar engine.
Instead, you slowly and deliberately replace the energy you were getting from carbohydrates with what is categorized as high-quality animal fats.
And I want to pause here and really emphasize the specific ingredients we are talking about, because it flies in the face of what we've been told since the late 1970s.
It really is a shock to the system for some people to hear.
We are talking about incredibly rich, satisfying foods. The text enthusiastically lists natural, grass-fed butter.
Butter is back on the menu.
It lists lard, which is high-quality pork fat.
Yes.
It lists tallow, which is beef fat. And it highlights nutrient-dense egg yolks. What blew my mind about this section wasn't just the biochemistry, it was how good the food actually sounds.
It's delicious food.
Imagine fresh golden butter melting and bubbling in a hot cast iron pan. Imagine cooking and eating deeply marbled meats like a thick cut of pork belly or a beautifully seared ribeye steak.
We're making ourselves hungry.
Seriously, this is not a diet of deprivation. This goes completely against the dry chicken breast and steamed vegetable culture we grew up with. This is a dietary protocol of extreme, profound satiety.
Now, I know exactly what the listener's hesitation is right now. It is the question that immediately comes to the forefront of the mind.
I can hear them asking it.
Wait, won't eating all that fat make me fat? Won't that clog my arteries?
Yeah, that is a million-dollar question.
We have been deeply conditioned by decades of the food pyramid and the diet heart hypothesis to believe that consuming dietary fat translates directly to gaining body fat and destroying cardiovascular health.
Right.
But the clinical data shows the exact opposite phenomenon when carbohydrates are restricted.
I have to play devil's advocate here.
Please do.
For 50 years, the medical establishment, the dietary guidelines, everyone has told us that butter and beef tallow are a one-way ticket to a heart attack. How does this clinical approach reconcile that massive contradiction?
It comes down to looking at the historical context of how those guidelines were formed. And more importantly, understanding how macronutrients interact in the body.
Okay, break that down.
The demonization of saturated fats largely stemmed from observational epidemiological studies in the mid-20th century.
Ansel Keys, right.
Specifically, Ansel Keys' 7-country study, which heavily implied a correlation between saturated fat intake and heart disease. But correlation does not equal causation.
Very true.
What those early studies often failed to account for was that the people eating high amounts of fat were also eating high amounts of refined carbohydrates and sugar.
Ah, they were eating both.
When you combine high fat with high carbohydrates, it is an absolute metabolic disaster.
Why is the combo so bad?
The carbohydrates spike your insulin, which opens the fat cells for storage, and the dietary fat gets immediately packed away, while the high blood sugar causes arterial inflammation.
So the sugar is the delivery mechanism for the fat storage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
However, when you remove the carbohydrates from the equation, the entire biochemical landscape changes.
Right, and the way the mechanics of this are explained is so cool. It all comes down to the hormonal magic of a hormone called leptin.
Leptin is the hero here.
And the absence of the storage hormone, insulin. When you eat a meal heavily based on animal fats and protein, but devoid of carbs, something very specific happens, or rather, doesn't happen.
No spike.
Unlike a bowl of rice, a bagel, or a sugary coffee, animal fats and proteins do not cause your blood sugar to spike.
It stays beautifully stable.
Because your blood sugar stays flat and completely stable, your pancreas does not need to release a massive surge of insulin.
And insulin, as we established earlier, is the hormone that commands your body to store fat and locks the fat-burning valve.
So by fueling with animal fat instead of carbs, you keep the fat storage hormone completely quiet.
The rusted valve begins to loosen.
But more importantly, the dietary fat turns on a massive sensor in your brain. It triggers the robust release of leptin.
The master satiety hormone.
It sends a booming, unmistakable biochemical signal to your hypothalamus that says, we have an abundance of energy. We are completely full. Shut down the appetite drive immediately.
And this is where we see the profound difference between a calorie-restricted diet and a carbohydrate-restricted high-fat diet.
It's night and day.
On a low-fat, low-calorie diet, your leptin levels plummet, and your ghrelin, the hunger hormones, skyrockets. You are physiologically tortured by hunger.
White-knuckling it.
But when you fuel with animal fats, leptin rises. And the resulting miraculous change is the complete eradication of what we can call fake hunger.
Fake hunger, that's a huge concept.
Fake hunger is that blood sugar-driven panic, that reactive hypoglycemia we discussed earlier. It is the trembling hands, the brain fog, and the irresistible, overpowering urge to snack 2 hours after eating a seemingly large but carb-heavy meal.
Like Chinese food syndrome. You eat a huge meal and you're starving 2 hours later.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because it was all noodles and rice.
Yeah.
But when you fuel up with animal fats, that fake hunger vanishes completely.
It's honestly hard to overstate how liberating that feels once you experience it. A very specific, practical scenario to illustrate this is looking at how you start your morning.
A breakfast shift.
Let's say you start your day not with cereal or a pastry, but by drinking coffee blended with grass-fed butter, often called bulletproof coffee.
Right.
Or having a breakfast consisting of 3 eggs cooked in tallow with some bacon. The clinical result of starting your day this way, with virtually 0 carbohydrates and a high intake of healthy fats, is a profound, continuous feeling of fullness.
It's a deep satisfaction.
You are so deeply satiated on a hormonal level that you don't even think about food. You coast right past your normal 10 a.m. snack time.
You don't need the mid-morning muffin?
You sail past lunchtime without the slightest distraction or dip in physical or cognitive energy. You are running on premium, slow-burning fuel.
Which brings us to perhaps the most fascinating and scientifically complex phase of this entire protocol.
This is where the magic happens.
Because once those high-quality animal fats erase that fake panicked hunger and your insulin levels remain consistently low, something incredible happens.
Yeah.
A concept that absolutely terrifies a lot of people, intermittent fasting.
Oh, people hear the word fasting and they run.
They do. But it suddenly changes character completely. It transforms from a torturous, agonizing ordeal where you are staring at the clock on the wall.
Drinking gallons of water just to trick your stomach.
Right, until you are allowed to eat again. It transforms from that into something entirely natural, peaceful, and painless.
It just happens on its own, almost accidentally.
I love that you use the word accidentally, because that's exactly how it feels. You look at the clock and realize, oh, wow, I haven't eaten in 16 hours, and I feel amazing.
The mechanics behind this newfound ease are the ultimate proof that the protocol is working. The reason you can easily go 16, 18, or even 24 hours without eating is because your body is no longer sitting around in a panic waiting for you to provide a hit of external glucose.
The rusted valve has been cleared.
The carnitine shuttle is wide open. The hybrid engine has officially switched over. Your body is now actively, efficiently, and happily burning your own stored belly fat, thigh fat, and visceral fat for its primary fuel.
The hybrid fat mode is fully operational.
You are still eating. You are just eating the energy meals you stored around your waist 5 years ago.
Let's spend some time really breaking down the timeline of what happens during a natural fast, because this is where the true biological magic of compression of morbidity happens.
The long-term healing.
When you reach this fat-adapted state, you unlock the ultimate reward, a massive systemic self-healing phase. When the body finally achieves metabolic flexibility and you can comfortably sustain a fast because you aren't hormonally hungry, you enter a state of true biological repair that simply cannot happen when you're constantly eating.
Okay, so what's the first thing that happens?
First, consider the mechanical rest. For your entire life, your digestive organs, your stomach, your small and large intestines, your liver, your gallbladder, your pancreas.
The whole factory.
Right. They have been working overtime, practically 247, processing a constant influx of food.
Never getting a break.
By achieving a natural fast of 16 to 24 hours, these critical overworked organs are finally granted total absolute rest from the exhausting, highly energy-intensive work of digestion.
That alone sounds incredibly healthy.
It is. But the absence of digestion doesn't mean the body shuts down. In fact, it gets to work on a completely different priority list.
Exactly. And here's the million-dollar question. What do your cells actually do when the external nutrients stop coming in and insulin drops to baseline?
The scientific answer sounds like science fiction.
It really does,
Yeah.
but it is very real, heavily researched biology. Autophagy.
Autophagy.
Autophagy translates literally from Greek as self-eating.
To understand autophagy, we have to look at two crucial cellular pathways, MTOR and AMPK.
Okay, let's look at MTO first.
When you are eating constantly, especially carbohydrates and proteins, a pathway called MTOR is activated. MTOR is the body's primary growth signal. It tells cells to build, divide, and multiply.
It's an anabolic state.
Exactly. But you cannot be in a state of growth and a state of repair at the same time.
It's impossible.
It's like trying to renovate a kitchen while you are actively trying to cook a massive dinner party in it. It doesn't work.
You have to stop cooking to fix the pipes.
When you stop eating and insulin drops, MTOR is suppressed. As your energy stores deplete slightly, a different pathway called AMPK rises.
AMPK, what does that do?
AMPK is the cellular energy sensor, and when it senses that external nutrients are absent, it flips the switch from growth mode to repair mode. It turns on autophagy.
And the visual of autophagy in action is amazing. When MTOR drops and AMPK rises, the cells become like little microscopic cellular Roombas.
That's a brilliant way to picture it.
They create these structures called autophagosomes, which act like biological garbage bags.
Sweeping everything up.
They begin to actively hunt down and consume diseased protein debris, metabolic waste products, misfolded proteins.
The junk.
Yes, and aging, damaged organelles like old mitochondria that are floating around inside your body causing oxidative stress. They sweep all this cellular garbage into the autophagosomes, merge them with lysosomes.
Which contain digestive enzymes.
Right, and break the garbage down into basic amino acids. The body then recycles these raw materials to reset and build young, clean, highly functional new cells.
That's incredible.
It is literally an internal power wash and recycling program for your biology.
This raises an incredibly important point regarding the broader implications for that happiness area and the compression of morbidity we discussed at the very beginning.
How it all ties together.
The clinical outcomes of this cellular house cleaning, of this sustained autophagy, are profound and measurable.
It's not just theoretical.
No. The data notes that as this biological garbage is cleared out, systemic inflammation levels, which can be measured by blood markers like CRP or C-reactive protein, plummet significantly.
And inflammation is the big enemy.
Chronic inflammation is the root driver of almost all age-related diseases. Furthermore, as the liver shifts heavily into fat burning, it produces ketones, specifically beta-hydroxybutyrate.
Ketones, the premium fuel.
Ketones are an incredibly clean, efficient superfuel for the brain. That persistent brain fog that so many people accept as a normal part of aging completely lifts.
You feel sharp.
Very sharp. Ketones also stimulate the production of BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is basically miracle grow for your neurons.
Miracle grow for the brain. I love that.
The mind becomes incredibly sharp and clear, and that lingering, heavy chronic fatigue vanishes completely.
You are literally rebuilding your cellular foundation from the inside out, effectively guaranteeing that the high point of your life graph remains elevated for decades to come.
You're keeping the line high.
Okay, we have covered an immense amount of ground today, diving deep into the endocrinology, the history, and the cellular biology of how our bodies actually work.
It's a lot of information, but it's powerful.
So let's synthesize this into the ultimate actionable formula to walk away with. It is surprisingly simple. A 3-step equation to rewrite your biological destiny and engage that hybrid engine.
Let's lay it out.
Step 1. Radically reduce your intake of carbohydrates, the bread, the rice, the pasta, the sugar.
Stop spiking your insulin and locking the fat valve.
Exactly. Step 2. Fill that caloric void by intentionally increasing your intake of high-quality animal fats.
Like grass-fed butter, beef tallow, and egg yolks.
This will activate the satiety hormone leptin and eradicate fake hunger.
Say goodbye to the 3 p.m. crash.
And finally, step 3. Allow the absence of hunger to naturally, painlessly guide you into effortless intermittent fasting.
Suppressing mTOR, elevating AMPK.
And unlocking the profound self-healing power of autophagy. That is the biological equation. And the sum of that equation is an overwhelming, exponential expansion of the happiness area in your life graph.
The clinical results highlighted throughout this material prove an incredibly optimistic truth.
What's that?
The human body desperately wants to heal itself. It is not fundamentally broken. It is just being given the wrong instructions.
It just needs the right fuel.
It just needs the correct hormonal environment and the correct fuel to flip the switch from decay back to vitality.
So I want to speak directly to you right now as we wrap up this deep dive. Think back to that visualization exercise I asked you to do at the very beginning of our conversation.
Looking at those last 10 years.
How do you want to draw the remainder of your life graph? Do you want to accept the slow, agonizing, medicated decline? Or do you want to fight for that high golden plateau of energy, cognitive sharpness, and physical independence?
There really is a choice.
The power to choose is literally sitting on your plate. You don't have to wait until New Year's Day or next month or even next week. You can start this metabolic shift today at your very next meal.
Right now.
Look at what you are about to eat. Can you reduce the bread, the rice, or the potatoes? Can you add a generous portion of natural butter or a rich animal fat to ensure you are deeply satiated?
Give it a try.
And if you genuinely aren't hungry right now, can you simply step away, skip the snack, and give your digestive system the miraculous gift of a few hours of rest so it can start cleaning house? The biological choice is entirely yours.
And as you consider how you will approach your fueling strategy from this point forward, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over, a broader implication of everything we've discovered today.
I'm intrigued.
We have just spent the last hour learning that our bodies possess a miraculous, built-in cellular recycling program in autophagy, and a highly efficient dual-fuel engine that almost all of us rarely ever use because of our modern diets.
Because we're comfortable.
Exactly. If our comfortable, temperature-controlled environment of constant, easy carbohydrate consumption has caused us to completely forget how to use our own built-in fat-burning and self-healing systems,
Yeah.
what other incredible dormant survival mechanisms might be sleeping deep inside our biology right now, just waiting for the right environmental stressor to wake them up?